President Gaddafi for today's meeting. We'll start the meeting with a five-way test, prayer and pledge, led by Jay Gadberry, followed by a quick celebration of life with Rotarian Cappy Peck. Please help me welcome Jay up front.
Five-way test. Of the things we think, say, or do, is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? Will it be beneficial to all concerned? Will it be fun? Hey, let us pray. Our Father, we thank Thee for our many blessings. We are all so blessed here. We pray for world peace and goodwill toward men. We know the world would be a better place if we could all just love and trust each other. Pray for our world leaders to be able to solve global issues to the benefit of all concerned. Guide and direct us on the way we should go. Go Hogs. Amen. Pledge allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good afternoon, everybody. As you're eating, you probably know why I'm standing up here, and I'm going to do my very best to not get too emotional about it. As you know, our beloved city manager, Bruce Moore, passed away on Saturday. To say that Bruce was the most exemplary public servant I've ever known is an understatement. He was a friend, a colleague, my mentor. He loved each and every one of the 2,500 city employees that worked for Little Rock. He was our city manager for over 20 years. First started as an intern 35 years ago. I don't know anybody that cares as much, who cared as much, who was as passionate and compassionate as Bruce. And we were happy to welcome him, thanks to Susan Altruy, to our Rotary Club just a few weeks ago. One of his many accomplishments was being the project lead for the city in this magnificent building that we are gathered in today. If you are so inclined, we invite you to join us on Saturday, October 21st at Robinson Center for a reception followed by services at 11:30 at Robinson Center. Also, in lieu of flowers, the family is asked that you consider a donation to Little Rock Central High Tiger Athletic Fund, where his son, who's such a devoted father, Luke, attends school. Lots of love going out to the whole city, to Bruce's family, to Luke, and especially his fiancée, Siobhan Osborne. Thank you.
At this time, I'd like to invite you all to stand and observe a moment of silence as we remember Little Rock City Manager and fellow Club 99er, Bruce T. Moore. Thank you, Rotarians, and thank you, Cappy, for your words of remembrance. I'd also like to say a quick thank you to our greeters this week, Michael Manley, Debbie Davis, and Don Cole. Now we'll welcome our guests with Christian O'Neill, followed by some announcements from Mandy Richardson and Courtney Little.
Thank you, Jason, very much. We are delighted to introduce our guests today. When I introduce you or announce your name, if you will stand along with your Rotary host, and then once we're done introducing all the guests and their hosts, we'll applaud. We have Maddie Schmidt today, who is a guest of Amy Mines. We have none other than Stephanie Carruthers, the guest of Kathy Peck. We have John Martin, who is the guest of Grant Cox. And we have Wayne Clark, who is the guest of Chris Duncombe. And also we have today Caleb Bird, who is a guest of Little Rock Rotaract. We are glad to have you all here. Welcome.
Well, it's more fun to eat your way through the fair together than by yourself. So Friday, we are going to ask anyone that would like to join us for lunch at the fair to please do so. Parking and admission is free, so if you arrive at 11 a.m., we would love to have some fellowship and work our way down the aisle and check out this year's food. We are not asking for RSVP, so feel free just to show up. We're going to meet at the Big Show Diner, which is near the Midway and before you hit the concession area. So we'll meet there at 11 o'clock. If you're running a little late, I'm sure you can find us with flakes of funnel cake, or at least me, on my shirt. So hopefully you can make it out and enjoy the fair with us. We also have our Rotary Club 99 dinners coming up. Those are happening on Tuesday, November the 7th. There's a link in this week's or in today's Rotary e-newsletter. If you haven't signed up and you would like to do so, we would encourage you to do that quickly. If you would like to bring a guest with you, you can register them at that link as well. It'll be $50 for your guest. And we have 7 gracious hosts who are hosting dinners that evening all across Little Rock, so we're really excited about that. If you do sign up, you will get an email notifying you at the end of this month as to which location you've been assigned to, how to get there, all the details that you would need. So please sign up for those dinners on Tuesday, November 7th, and note that we will not be meeting for lunch that day. Thank you so much.
All right, good afternoon, I guess, just by a few minutes. So my name's Courtney Little. I'm in charge of the drug take-back this year. As many of you may know, we've been partnering with the Little Rock Police for a number of years to get prescription medicines out of our cabinets and out of our homes and responsibly thrown away. As somebody who's a big fan of the environment and sustainability, we don't want to be flushing them, throwing them away, doing all that, but we also don't want them in our cabinets. So on Saturday, October 28th, from 10 to 2, we'll be doing a drug take-back event at Park Plaza. It's a drive-through. You can come by, bring things in. Please let your neighbors, friends, families know that that's available. It's also a great day to be in Midtown. We're going to have Harvest Fest in Hillcrest and Chili Fights in the Heights that day. So great excuse to, while you're in the area, to clean out your medicine cabinets and do that on the way before or after. So we'd love to see you do that. We're also looking for a few volunteers. We need about 4 volunteers, and we got 2 shifts from 10 to noon and noon to 2. So it's a good opportunity to come work a couple hours and serve the community before going and celebrating the community we live in with our neighbors. So it should be a really fun day, and hopefully the weather will look like it is today. But if you have any interest, please let us know. You can let Karen Lale the normal avenues, but it should be in the newsletter, and we'd appreciate some volunteers. So come hang out. I'll be there the entire 4 hours, and looking forward to celebrating thereafter. So thanks again. Appreciate y'all.
Thank you, Christian, Mandy, and Courtney. I'm also going to throw in a quick plug for our Dunbar mentors. The kickoff was very well received last week, but we could use a couple more volunteers to pair up with students. If you can make the time to continue our multi-year partnership that we have with Dunbar Elementary, please contact Patricia Blick. For the President's Minute today, I thought I would try to put my 2 cents into the power of fun. President Natalie's theme has resonated very well with me as I try to add fun as often as I can in my day-to-day life. My inspiration for fun also comes from a book, although something that's not quite as prestigious as Catherine Price's Daily Tome that we've heard so often this year. My book was called Aliens Ate My Homework. It's written by Bruce Coville. I read this book in 5th grade, and I learned a line that turned out to be very formative to me and my young mind. The book was a pretty typical read about some aliens that crash landed in the protagonist's papier-mâché volcano and ate it to supplement the flavor of their alien MREs. Obviously, the kid protagonist bounced from stressor to stressor between the appearance of aliens for the first time, the fear of getting an F on his science class project, and the weapon-laden bounty hunt for the villain. I probably didn't mention that the aliens crashed into the volcano are intergalactic law enforcement. During one particularly harrowing adventure, the protagonist yelled at the alien medical officer saying, "How do you stay so calm?" And he responded simply, "I've never improved a situation by worrying about it." That's a simple line, but it was so formative to me at 9 years old. Fear and stress are useful when we're being chased by a saber-toothed tiger, but a smile instead of a frown can often help you find a new, more useful perspective instead of fight or flight. In personal finance, we sell trust and confidence, not fear. It is actually rumored that past President Kenny Gibbs will wear a red clown nose whenever he has to tell a client he underperformed the market. He does this just to ease the tension and keep the long-term perspective in focus. I say that's rumored, however, because the building has never seen him have to share the news of his underperformance. While that red nose may remain to be seen in Cypress Plaza, the message is the same. More often than not, a smile is more productive than a frown. The side message is don't let your kids read books about aliens in 5th grade, or they may quote it 30 years later while filling in on short notice for real adults. With that, let's hear from our member highlight video for the week.
My name is Ross Burnett, and I help people manage their money at Merrill Lynch. I've been doing that for about 9 years now. For fun, one of the things I absolutely love doing is cooking for myself, friends, and family. It was 2019. For New Year's resolution, I wanted to make 52 unique dishes that year. I got 2 shy of that. Then that next year, I came out with a vengeance and wanted to do 70 plus unique dishes. I followed recipes, I watched YouTube videos, followed Instagram accounts, and really hit it hard and ended up doing about 75. And then the following year, I didn't want to use any recipes and just wanted to use techniques that I'd learned from prior events, prior cooking videos, things like that, and challenge myself to come up with at least 52 unique dishes without using a recipe. My absolute favorite type of cuisine to cook is Italian, Mediterranean, seafood and pasta. I'm a big proponent of embracing a high carb lifestyle and then burning those off doing fun activities outside. And it also gives me the opportunity to come up with all of these unique recipes for sauces that don't really require to have a defined recipe. You can use your heart and you can kind of let it be like a therapy for you, like an art for you. The most unexpected ingredient that I've used, I'd have to say, would be octopus. The first time that I cooked with octopus, it actually came out really well. I was cooking for a girl at the time who I was trying to impress. She loved it, she loved it. Favorite restaurant in Little Rock would have to be George's or Arthur's. George's obviously brand new, but I loved everything about it. I even had to go recreate bucatini cacio e pepe after I had it like that next weekend. It was so delicious. And then Arthur's, when I go celebrate, we do a steak or we do something fun. For work monument, a colleague and I went to Arthur's and we got the Japanese Wagyu beef and split that and just phenomenal.
Thank you for that fun video, Ross. Now, onto the program, we'll invite Cappy Pack back up to the front to introduce our panel for the day.
Well, this is my favorite subject in the whole wide world. So let's talk about food. It's not much of an exaggeration to say that our foodie scene in Little Rock has exploded over the last 10 years. From Soma to East Village to Heights to Hillcrest to West Little Rock and beyond, we have no shortage of great locally owned restaurants from which to choose, and food trucks and grocery stores and bars and pastry stores and coffee shops. So here today, three dear friends and a dear moderator friend that I could not be happier to introduce. We'll start with Pamela Smith, our moderator. Pam is currently the Executive Director of Communications for the Little Rock School District. Some of you may remember, I certainly do, her time as a newscaster at KTV. She was one of the first longtime television food reporters in our area, bringing a weekly delicious feature to us called Pam's Picks, which aired on Live at 5. Anybody remember Pam's Picks? So like everybody here does. As a matter of fact, Pam featured one of our restaurants at the time in the Pleasant Ridge Shopping Center. I think I might know what that was. After her broadcast career, Pam wrote a monthly feature for AY magazine called Pamela's Palate. She now advocates for restaurants in a different capacity in her role on the City of Little Rock's Advertising and Promotion Commission. Thank you, my dear sweet friend, Pam. Next up, Little Rock-based Kevin Shalin, the Mighty Rib, or as I call him, Mr. Shalinsky, started his food writing career in his hometown of Houston, Texas, with the Houston Press's Eating Our Words. He's been covering the often underrated Arkansas food and drink scene for the past decade. In addition to maintaining his popular food blog, The Mighty Rib, Kevin was the food editor for AY magazine and has been contributing writer for Little Rock Soiree, Bourbon and Boots, Little Rock Family, Arkansas Times, and Only in Arkansas. I have to go off script for 1 second. Kevin and I met early on when he moved here. He has become one of my best friends in the whole wide world. We eat and travel the world together. And Kevin has done, I think, more than any individual in the history of food writing for our restaurants, our local restaurants. If you don't follow The Mighty Rib on Facebook, you'll find out about all sorts of hidden gems. He is such an advocate for our industry. In addition, recently he's gotten super involved with charities, specifically the Arkansas Hunger Relief Alliance, and we would not be where we are without Kevin. I love you, Kevin, can you tell? And I don't like him to write about trios, because we don't want to go there. I love you, even if you never eat at my restaurant again. Okay, then we have the famous Kat Robinson. Everybody knows Kat. She's an author, she's an Arkansas food historian, and a filmmaker. The Emmy-nominated host of Arkansas Dairy Bars, Neat Eats and Cool Treats, and host and writer of the documentary Make Room for Pie. We should be having pie today, not a cupcake. That's okay. She's a prolific contributor to local, regional, and national publications, and an accomplished photographer and publisher. She's a member of the Arkansas Food Hall of Fame Selection Committee, the co-chair of the Arkansas Pie Festival, and the River Valley Eats columnist for the Northwest Arkansas Democrat Gazette. Her 12th and latest book, The Great Arkansas Pie Book, is now available nationwide. Eat pie. And then last, but certainly not least, my king, as I call him, is Darren Hall, third-generation member of the famous Hall family that owns and operates Little Rock's K. Hall and Sons Produce at 1900 Wright Avenue, location of my favorite burger and collards and purple hull peas and a lot of other things in the whole wide world. Founded by his grandparents, Noxie and Estelle Hall, 50 years ago, K. Hall is now run by Darren and his dad, David Hall. You're not even going to mention your mom? What? That's not right. As part of his ownership duties, Darren runs the widely read and enjoyed K Hall social and media accounts. And if you aren't following that, I sometimes need a translator. Maybe it's because I'm 70, I don't get some of it, but super entertaining. And he's also the owner of the food truck Hall Brothers To Go, best soul food ever. And when is Soul Food Sunday coming back? Because it's been way too long. And I'm often the first in line, and I mean it, man, it is time. Okay, welcome.
Hello, hello. Can you hear me? Oh, awesome. I am so excited to be here. This is absolutely one of my favorite subjects in the whole wide world. I am a foodie from many years gone by, and I hate to say that admittedly because then I might be telling my age. But just a quick kind of corny story about me and food and my connection. When I was a little girl, my grandmother lived in a community called Higgins. Higgins is in the country, for those of you who don't know that. And so when we came to Little Rock, we would be going to what we said, going to town. And every time we went to town, I always had to have a sandwich. And there was a lady in the community affectionately called Ida Bell because she loved to eat. And so I earned the nickname, don't tell anybody this, Ida Bell, because I always wanted to stop and get a sandwich when we came to town. So my love and appreciation for food goes way back, and I'm very, very excited to be here with our esteemed panelists. I want to give a shout out to our president, Natalie Godotti, and Amy Mines for allowing us to have this fun, tasty topic today, especially when we've been dealing with a lot of things that have been pretty heavy in our world. It's nice to just have some levity, if you will. You know, food is one of the commonalities for many of us that crosses all cultures and societies. It's a language that we all can relate to, much like our favorite sports team, unless, of course, you're rooting for the wrong team. That is one of the things that brings us together. So much like what we're doing here at Rotary every Tuesday, we are here together and we get to fellowship and enjoy a great meal. So I am going to jump into our conversation because we have some wonderful guests here joining us today. I will share that we will have a trivia question at the end, and we have a little lagniappe for you. As our good friend Mr. Kenny would say. So I hope you are pretty attuned to the food scene because you'll need your thinking caps for this one. So we're going to jump into our conversation, speaking of shared experiences, to hear more about our panelists and what has driven them to be a part of the widely respected and growing food culture. Let's start with the lovely lady on the end, Miss Kat.
Thanks, Pam. And I do apologize if my voice isn't as full as normal. I didn't have any voice at all this weekend. So I came to the food scene kind of in an alternate fashion. I've been fascinated with historical food since I was in my early 20s, and I'm a product of two Gurdon, Arkansas children, so of course I had lots of great Arkansas food growing up. But in 2007, I decided it was time for me to leave my previous career in television, like Pam. I produced today's THV This Morning with BJ, Robin, and Tom for 8 years, and it was time to go and stretch my wings. I found very early on that food writing was the way I needed to go. Every time I seemed to think, oh, I'm going to do this instead, I kept falling back into it. I had people like Chef Lee Richardson, who had just opened Ashley's at the Capitol at that point in time, who asked me the question, what is Arkansas food? And since I didn't feel at the time, back in 2007, to answer that question, I made it a mission. I actually have published a book called Arkansas Food, the A to Z of Eating in the Natural State, that 12 years later finally answered that question. I feel very passionate about food for the entire state of Arkansas. And as my friend John T. Edge has referred to me, I feel I preach the gospel of Arkansas food. not just within the metropolitan area, which I dearly love, but throughout the entire state. And I try to do that every single day. I want to be a good ambassador for what we have here.
And you certainly have. Thank you, Ms. Cat. And of course, Kevin, you are a transplant, but you have quickly become a beloved member of the Little Rock family. Talk about your arrival in the food culture.
Well, I wouldn't say it was quickly, but it's taken a while. It's a slow build like anything else. I spoke about this not too long ago, where a lot of people that get into this type of thing think it's going to be a quick hit, and you're going to impress everyone, and everyone's going to click on you and like you and all that. And the truth is, if you want to, it's just like anything else. If you want to do it right, it's a slow build. It's an organic build. And, you know, quite honestly, I grew up in Houston. When I found out my family was moving to Little Rock, I kind of did an eye roll because specifically, I didn't think there would be anything to write about in terms of food here. And what I found out when we moved is it couldn't have been anything but the opposite. There is so much, even 11 years ago, there was a lot to write about. It kept me busy. And what I found was this warm community, and one that I loved the size of this community. Growing up in Houston and then moving to Boston, these huge cities, and then you come to a place like Little Rock. The size has always appealed to me. I love being able to write about something and seeing the effect that it has. It's very rewarding, and there's nothing more rewarding than that. So we've been here 11 years. This is our home. We have no plans on moving. We love it here, and a big part of that is this warm community.
Thank you, Kevin. And Darren, you're really the homegrown talent among us here. You grew up around food and literally from the ground up. So talk about your arrival to what you're doing now.
Like I say, growing up in Little Rock, well, we're from Wrightsville. So my grandparents, Noxie and Estelle, they started K-Hall. It was pretty much just a rundown, abandoned gas station. And my papa bought it, and we used to farm. We had like 300 acres down in Wrightsville. So we used to farm, and my papa would sell and peddle whatever produce we sold. And then he bought that gas station, and then next thing you know, we were selling groceries. So in the kitchen, you know, my dad always tells this story. They would cook for their employees. So the customers in the community, they would come in and ask, you know, hey, what's that smell? What are y'all cooking? So of course, my papa and my dad was like, okay, we'll start selling some things. So we started doing a few things like burgers, you know, chicken, and then now we do, of course, my grandparents have both passed, so my dad and my brothers all play a huge part in that with the store. And of course, we sell produce across the state through like hospitals, schools, and all as well too. But the food side, we do seafood now. I mean, we've just kind of adapted, you know, to the city, you know, to try to bring more things. And, you know, being right in the central area, of course, we get all the kids from like Central Children's Hospital, DHS, pretty much from all over to come in. So we just try to do different things, and we've just been around for almost 50 years now, just kind of doing simple things, but really good.
You absolutely do. And I will tell you, if you've never been in that area on Seafood Saturday, it is a sight to behold. You probably have to time it just right because the line is really long, much like the line for the island noodles, I might add. And I would also suggest that if you've not been to K. Hall & Sons, the fried chicken is the bomb, you guys. It's absolutely delicious. So thank you for sharing. But your life has really evolved in terms of not just being a part of K. Hall & Sons on the property. You now have expanded to a food truck and other endeavors. So talk briefly about that, if you don't mind.
Yes. So, you know, my dad has always been huge with, you know, letting us make our own decisions and, you know, being supportive of what we wanted to do so we could have something of our own. So, you know, him and my mom, they found a food truck for us back in 2018. And my dad was like, all right, if y'all want to do it, you know, let's do it. So we did it, and we've had the food truck since 2018. So we do, since we all work full time, we kind of only do it on weekends and caterings, but we do soul food. At the Main Street Food Truck Festival, I had my mom, my dad, my niece and everybody was on. Everybody has to work. I put everybody to work on the food truck. We cater weddings and everything. I always say, all right, all hands on deck, and I make everybody come in and work. But the food truck has been great. I do a couple things on the side. I do private chef dinners where I go in people's houses and cook for them as well too.
Phenomenal caterer. Phenomenal. Seriously.
You're just saying that because you're my.
No, you really are.
If y'all don't know, me and Kevin, we banter a lot on the K Hall and the Facebook page with the Mighty Rip.
That's what this is all about, showing some Little Rock love to you guys. And I do love the fact that your family is involved in this process, and you not only grow it, cook it, you sell it too, so that's wonderful. So Kevin, if you don't mind, because as you mentioned already, since even moving here, the food scene has really exploded. What kinds of trends are you seeing?
I think right now you're going to see a lot more plant-based items on menus, a little more move toward healthy eating. We just had a restaurant that opened up a couple weeks ago called City Silo out in the Promenade, which is, I finally got a chance to go out there 2 weeks ago and was very impressed with what they have. There's a location in Memphis and there's one here in Little Rock, and I've heard a rumor there might be another one coming in Little Rock. So I think there's going to be a kind of a push towards this healthier eating. I also think you're going to start seeing, with the food costs rising and continuing to rise, I think you're going to see restaurants try to get creative as far as portion sizes, specials, things like that, because they're just trying to keep their customers, and no one's happy about higher prices in food, and certainly not the restaurants, the customers. So I think you're going to start seeing different types of specials, smaller portions, more value, more value. So I see some of those trends: healthier eating and better deals.
You think maybe perhaps some more fixed price menus, perhaps?
Possibly. I just had dinner the other night across the river at the Riverfront Steakhouse, and my wife and I, 2 people for $60. They split the steak, which I felt like an old person, but that actually works for me now. Like I don't need to eat an entire filet on a Friday night, but it was a great value. And they've been doing that a while. That's nothing new for them. But I think you're going to start seeing more and more of that, where you get that value. You can still have a very nice experience, for example, in a steakhouse, and get out of there for, have a nice glass of wine, get out of there for under $100 for a couple, which is a really good deal. I think we're going to start seeing more and more of that creativity from restaurants.
Anything in particular you're seeing, Kat?
I've seen a great rise in ethnic restaurants of all sorts, especially across the state, but finally coming into the city. We had a lot of people over the past 15 years that have made Arkansas their home that had not been here before. We've gone from a state that in the early aughts, 91% of meals were taken outside the home, but 70% of those were taken from chain restaurants, to all this innovation that is coming in. We've already gone through one farm to fork innovation. We're continuing to add more farms that are part of the value. But we're also starting to see the ethnic populations around here, folks that hail from Central and South America who have come here, who are really starting to make a huge impact on the way that we eat food here, not just in our restaurants, but in our farms and the produce that we are bringing in. I'm very excited to see where this goes.
Thanks. And speaking of the farm to table food, what about you, Darren? What kinds of experiences have you witnessed related to that?
I feel like I've been seeing a lot of more food trucks coming in during this time. I feel like that, like Kevin said, with the prices rising on everything and overhead, and even just, I think the biggest thing a lot of restaurants are struggling with now is just finding help with people wanting to work. I know we struggle with it all the time as well too. I'm sure Ms. Cappy probably deals with finding help. But I'm seeing a lot of food trucks, more food trucks coming and just having lower overhead and lower cost. Is kind of what I'm seeing on that.
Speaking of the help wanted signs, have you heard any information or received any information about what's leading to the shortage and why people are not wanting to work in the restaurant industry?
Yeah, COVID has, without question, had an effect on the industry. People that were working, they left. They didn't like the way they were treated for good reason. They were treated poorly in many cases. They've left. They haven't come back. But we're also seeing what I think is borderline saturation in our market in terms of restaurants here locally. It's wonderful for someone like me to be able to cover new restaurants is great, but I feel like we might be reaching a point like, can we support all these wonderful restaurants and still support the older restaurants, the ones, the tried and true, the consistent ones that have been here for 30 plus years, the Trios, the Doughs, the brave new restaurants in the world. It is going to be a challenge for our town, our area here, Central Arkansas. I just was speaking glowingly about how I love the size. Well, that one of the issues is we don't have a huge population. Can we keep supporting all these wonderful restaurants? I hope so, because it's exciting. We just had a wonderful wine bar open up in Soma. That whole Soma district in general is just, what it's done in the last 10 years is nothing short of phenomenal. So, yes, we have less pool to choose from for workers in this industry, which is going to be a challenge.
And that's probably emblematic for many industries based on our current economic picture, but hopefully we can experience a turnaround. That's what we're all hoping for. So let's talk, because everybody has a favorite food, a favorite restaurant. I won't get you in trouble asking you your favorite restaurant, because some restaurateurs are in this room. But, perhaps you have a favorite restaurant for a certain food item, but we won't ask you that either. We would love, though, to hear from you about your favorite food item and then some of your favorite places to eat. That way we don't get into trouble. Let's start with you, Darren, besides K. Hall and Sons.
Of course, I love Trios. I love Miss Cappy. She comes to the farmer's market and buys a lot of her produce during the summertime from us. So I do love Miss Cappy. But, man, I just like some of everything. The Yellow Rocket Group, they do a good job with everything. I like going there. Baja Grill. I know my mom's been hooked on that Mockingbird's place here recently. Probably like for fine dining, I really like Alsop Chapel. They've been pretty consistent out there. Really good.
Thank you very much, and shout out to Mom for being here. I've known her for many years. She's a great cook too, so it's in your DNA, I'm sure. All right, Kat, how about you?
The problem I have is I don't really have a favorite food. It's not pie, amazingly enough, because I find so many good things. The things that I really love more than anything else is fresh Arkansas produce, particularly Bradley County pink tomatoes in June, whenever they're absolutely perfect, or peaches straight off the tree, that sort of thing. But I'm not afraid to say what my favorite restaurant is because of the hospitality there, and that is, it's always going to be Star of India. And I love my friends in the restaurant industry, but I might have chosen a different career for myself if in 1998 I hadn't had a terrible Indian food experience. I went to Star of India with my now ex-husband at Disney. So he watched a popular British sci-fi comedy called Red Dwarf. And he's like, we're going to go get chicken vindaloo. And I want to get it spicy hot. And I thought, well, I've had spicy things before, right? Gets the vindaloo. And I eat a little bit of this, and it is spicy. It is horrifically spicy. And I burst into tears. And God bless him, Sammy Law comes over to the table, sees me in distress, and he says, what's wrong? I said, I can't eat this. And he goes, are you okay? I said, I love different spices, but heat, this is too hot for me to process. Please let me make it better. He comes back with a dish of chicken tikka korma with all the different flavors in it. Mild, because I couldn't handle the heat after that chicken vindaloo. He comes and checks on me. He kept coming back and checking on me. And every time I've darkened his door since then, he's always checking on me, asking about my family. I'm sure that many of you have had the same experience, to the point where that's where we celebrate birthdays and anniversaries and even my daughter's baby shower. So I have no problem sharing that information.
Well, thank you for sharing that story, and it really is about how people make you feel, the customer service aspect of it, which is so important. It goes hand in hand with great food. Kevin, what about you?
Chow bachi. Love chow bachi. Sorry, Cappy. Yeah, everyone loves chow bachi. How can you not? But the thing I love about chow bachi is it's this wonderful old house. It just has a very unpretentious vibe to it, but you get to eat food at a reasonable cost, and it feels like an upscale experience. You can do small plates. You can do cocktails. They have a great bartender now, formerly of Trios. And you know, you just get a little of everything there. You can go late. You can sit on the patio. I just love, it's a warm environment. I just absolutely love it. And they're always rotating their menus, which is great, seasonal menus, which not a lot of places do. Trios does. Every month, yeah. No one does it as much as Trios, every month. Every month. But I love chow bachi, love K-Hall, love Trios. And I'm from Texas. I love good Mexican food. I don't think you can beat El Palenque in terms of Mexican food in this town. Just was there on Sunday. And you get a little of everything there. And, you know, those are my favorite spots.
Thank you. You got to share where this is for the rest of the audience so they know where to go.
Oh, yeah, Rodney Parham and right by Layla's there. You know, everyone knows where that is, right? Yeah. Professor Bowl, yeah.
Well, I'm sorry that they stole Cappy's bartender, but she still makes a mean fresco agave. Be careful, though, they will sneak up on you. Okay, so if we had, because we talked a little bit about a lot of variety here, which obviously there is, but if there is one type of cuisine that you wish we had, what would it be in Little Rock?
You want me to? I'll step up.
Either one of you.
I want another Thai restaurant. I think we lost K-Bird a couple years ago, and it really hurt. I love Thai food. We have a good place in Sherwood, Chang's Thai, which is excellent. I'd probably choose Thai food, and I love Ethiopian food. In fact, I ate at a place in Memphis last year, and I practically begged them to open a second location in Little Rock. I think they actually kind of listened to me, or at least they were humoring me. But I love Ethiopian food. I think if we got a restaurant here in Little Rock, an Ethiopian restaurant, I think it would do well.
How about you, Darren?
I would say Italian, but since Georgia's just open, I haven't had a chance to go there yet, so I have to try them out. But yeah, I would say like a really good Italian besides Bruno's. A really good, authentic Italian place. So I just have to try George's out.
Thank you, Ms. Cat.
I would love for us to have more of the ethnic diversity that we have in some of our other cities around the state. In particular, the vast span of Asian options that are available right now in Fort Smith. Love to have some good Korean food that would be available here. There's also Peruvian that's coming into the state. I'd love to see more Central and Southern American food here. That all being said, my biggest wish is for us to get a good Creole restaurant, not Cajun, because we have tons of Cajun restaurants that have popped up across the state, but good tomato-based New Orleans and Louisiana-style Creole food. I would be very excited to see that happen.
Well, I'm definitely a big gumbo fan, so we're going to go off script for a second. Where do you get like some authentic gumbo in this town?
Good question. I mean, honestly, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I don't know if there's a restaurant in this town that I love their gumbo. I think that's one of those dishes that's, at least in this area, probably best made at home. You know, you might be sitting there going, what about Faded Rose? I love Faded Rose. I don't love Faded Rose's gumbo. I love their shrimp etouffee. I love their shrimp and grits. I've just never been a big fan of the gumbo. So if I'm answering this question honestly, I don't have an answer for you, Pam. I'm sorry.
No other takers?
If I want gumbo, I make it myself. And if I make gumbo, I'm going to make 5 gallons of gumbo, and I'm going to have it until I'm sick of it. That's why I want it, because my partner would really like to have at least one shelf left in the fridge.
Well, the next time we're all going to Kat's house for gumbo, right? Since she likes to make it by the gallon. So we do have a number of phenomenal local restaurants here. But every now and then you hear a conversation about we should have this chain. If that were the case, what chain should that be and why? Kat?
I hate this question because I'm so passionate about our local operations. I think we have the capacity to outdo any chain restaurant that comes here. And while I appreciate the local managers that bring in restaurants that are chain operations, come on, guys, we can do it ourselves. A few years ago, there was a restaurant that I absolutely adored from out of state called La Madeleine, and Little Rock didn't support it. It was in a funky location, but really, Little Rock did not support it. When I see on the news people lining up to go to Whataburger or Freddy's or one of the new drive-through operations, it just makes me cringe because I'm thinking, how many of our locally owned and operated businesses are not getting that business because of those restaurants? So if we never get a Ruth's Chris here, it's not going to break my heart.
Thank you for being very candid. Tell us how you really feel.
Well,
Kevin?
I love Maggiano's. Yeah, right? Yeah. I think we need better Italian food in this area, and I think that would be a great upgrade. You know, we had that big space out in the promenade for Bravo's. I thought Bravo's was not good. And I think a place like Maggiano's would just kill in that spot. It's a really good chain. Any of the Papacitos or Papados would be. I took your answer.
Yeah, you took my answer.
All right, then I'll hand it off
No,
to
go
you.
ahead.
All right.
No, go right ahead.
Can't go wrong with that. It's my favorite airport restaurant. When I'm flying through Dallas, I got to stop at Papacitos. Again, it's my Tex-Mex in me. But yeah, those two places would be top of my list.
Well, did you already say
Yeah,
what
he
you
took it.
intended?
Yeah. So Papados, not really Papacitos. They're good, but Papados, my parents used to take us on trips just to Dallas to go eat that growing up. So even though it's a chain, but it's a family-owned kind of regional chain. But yeah, I would do Papados all day long.
I'm with you. Any of those restaurants in the Papa's chains, but I do love the fact that we have some very phenomenal local restaurants and well-trained chefs, and then some that just are good cooks that have inherited those skills through the years. By way of just showing your hands very quickly, anybody been to Papados in the room? A few of you? Okay. All right. Well, I would vote with you on that one. So we talked briefly about COVID, and I guess a better segue would have been when you mentioned it earlier, but since this is a timely topic, talk about the impact, notwithstanding the fact that we have a shortage of employees, but the impact of COVID on the restaurant industry. And do you feel like we are at a better place?
Without question, we're at a better place. You know, when COVID had reached Little Rock, one of the things I intentionally did was I wanted to go into the restaurants and see what it was like as all heck was breaking loose. And it really affected me on a personal level. And I think it changed the way I cover food. I'm not a traditional food critic, and I definitely have I've gotten further and further away from that, especially after COVID. Because during that time, I think restaurants needed more of an advocate, a cheerleader, rather than someone nitpicking everything. And when I was in those restaurants and I saw the employees and I saw the management, that has always stuck with me, how difficult it is to run a restaurant. Cappy can tell you all the things that she has experienced with a pandemic, a tornado, coming through her area. There's just so many things that a restaurant goes through day in and day out. If I can use my platform to help communicate with the audience just what they're going through, that's important to me. To answer your question, we are without question in a better place right now than we were during COVID or right after COVID. But it doesn't mean we don't have a lot of work to do, and there's improvement that needs to happen. But to me, as I look at it, we are definitely on the right path.
That's great to hear. And you mentioned the fact that restaurants are really having to think outside the box and be a little more creative in terms of their approaches, because that goes with hand in hand with competition, I think, as so many restaurants have popped up. Talk about your experience, please, Darren, related to COVID.
If I'm being honest, it may have been a little bit different for K-Hall since we're takeout, so we really didn't we didn't have to experience like I know Cappy did, was just doing takeout only. For a restaurant that does sit down, you know, it was different. But for us, we were all takeout. I feel like we got busier. I feel like people were probably cooking less, not going to the grocery stores, and just wanting food right then and there. So during COVID, I feel like, I mean, we were slammed, and I feel like since COVID, our business has grown even more as well. Besides, like you say, the pricing. I mean, the biggest thing with I think one of the biggest things during COVID that we've struggled was just getting things. Like there was shortages of like paper goods and just prices, like meats, like pork, like everything was just crazy scarce. That was probably one of the hardest things, just finding things we needed for the restaurant during that time.
All right, thank you. What about your experience, Kat?
Little Rock is blessed with a very active, very full companionship of food lovers. And thank goodness for that. Unfortunately, that's not really universal across the state. We didn't see it immediately with the pandemic. So many of our restaurants applied for grants. The community supported them during their times where they had to switch over to takeout. The money's gone. We are losing a lot of our rural restaurants now because they don't have the community support like we do in Little Rock. And the perfect storm of stagnant wages at the same time that we have the cost increase in food across the board is just kicking everybody's butt. I'm also seeing that those restaurants that cater to those who are on tight budgets, they're getting hit the hardest of all. They are struggling, and so the best thing we can do is to keep on going. Part of that is through community support. Part of it, I honestly believe, is going to come in the form of culinary tourism. Over the course of the past decade, ever since Forbes Travel Guide named us one of the top 5 foodie cities in the country, we have seen an increase of people coming to our metropolitan areas to put some more money into our restaurants, and that's been fabulous. But getting people out through the entire state, I think, is also going to be very important.
Thank you. Boy, this time really has flown by. I do want to get to a couple of quick questions, and then, as we promised, we have a little lanyard for you. Talk very briefly, if you don't mind, about the impact of social media on the restaurant scene. Briefly.
Darren, you're the social media guy.
It's definitely very vital, and I mean, we don't do any paid like advertising. I literally just get online and make posts, and it's kind of crazy how it started. I think during 2021, remember we had that big snowstorm that came in, and I was snowed in, just sitting at home, and you know, stuff just made a post about a situation that had happened and made it funny, and it just went kind of viral. So like a lot of my posts now go viral, and we get people from, I mean, just here lately, we get people coming from all over Arkansas, or people following from like Dallas or Atlanta, and it's just showing up on their feeds, and they're hearing about us, and we're gaining new customers like crazy. And it's, if restaurants don't do social media, like they definitely need to get, because it can be, and we don't do the paid sponsorship ads or anything, and just the amount of people we're getting coming in just because of the things that I post, even if it's just posting the food and just making a little funny thing about it, you know, and people just look at it and they're just loving it. And I'm just here just from the post, and I want to try a burger now. Or they'll be like when Whataburger came in, I made a post and said, you know, Whataburger could never. You know, and I posted a big burger. We do huge homemade burgers, and I posted a picture of the burger the day Whataburger opened up. And all I said was, Whataburger could never. And it went crazy, and people came in. My dad they were pattying burgers all day.
Wow. Well, that's amazing. I hope you guys are taking some tips. I am. We've got a true social media influencer in Mr. Darren, and of course, and Kat as well. Very quickly, Kat, talk about social media in your world.
So I've been very fortunate in that when I started my food writing career, it was 2007, the introduction of the iPhone, the first year that Facebook was open to everybody and not just college campuses, and to see how everything changed. I mean, from going in the very first time with a cell phone to sit down and eat at a restaurant and show the pictures and having a restaurant owner come out and go, "Oh, what do you think you're doing here?" to everybody shooting their food has changed the whole dialogue with restaurants. I think it's caused a lot of restaurants to have to step up their game, not just in what they prepare, but how it looks, because they want it to look good. And I agree, every restaurant has to have a social media presence of some sort, or they're going to get overlooked. Until last year, that was the case for every restaurant I've encountered, with one exception. That would be Corsi's Smoked Meats in St. Joe. And finally, somebody, then one of the grandkids finally opened up a Facebook page for them just so that they are there. You have to be present. If you're not on social media, you're not where the game is anymore.
All right, thank you so much.
And real quick, Miss, I will make a post about Kevin trying to dress like me today. Like, I don't know what, like, you guys will see a picture of me and him posted after after this event. And
Totally missed that. That's awesome. Yeah. Okay, so we want to take a couple quick questions, and then we'll get their favorite fair food. So go right ahead. Or he's asking about organic foods in the restaurant industry.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of touched on it earlier. Healthier eating. I hate that term clean eating. That seems so made up and stupid, but clean eating, organic food. You look at a place like Flora Jeans in downtown, it's a plant-based menu. I'm not a plant-based guy, but I still go there and eat. I enjoy it, and you don't have to be a vegetarian to enjoy a restaurant like that. You just have to have a bit of an open mind, and I think we're getting more and more used to that in this community, which is important. So we need restaurants like that that are kind of pushing away from our comfort zone. But I think organic food, it's just going to keep growing and growing. I think that's what we want.
Thanks, Kevin. Next question.
I'm curious about the labor situation. You touched on that before. And the reason I ask, I was picking up a pizza last weekend, and I was standing there waiting for it, and the general manager offered me a job and waiting tables. Now, the good news and the bad news. Good news is he thought I was young enough to do that. The bad news is I got home and my wife asked me why I didn't take the job. So how serious is the labor problem in the restaurant business?
I would say it's pretty... I guess it kind of comes, I feel like with my dad right now, it kind of comes and goes. One point we'll be fully staffed and be fine for a few months, but then, I mean, we've had multiple times where he'll set up 10, 12 interviews and you may have one person show up, or we had an instance where a lady came, worked half a day. I don't know if it was because it's too busy for her or not, but she worked till lunch and then never came back after lunch. So I don't know if it's people working at like Amazon, because I know Amazon, they're coming in paying people $20, $22 an hour. As a restaurateur, that's for a server or for a line cook, that's a lot to pay somebody, $22 an hour. You just don't really see people making that much for coming in to flip a burger or to, fry chicken. But I feel like it's just up and down, honestly. When people need money, they'll come work. Tax season, nobody's coming to work for a job right now. So,
thank you, Darren. Quickly, favorite fair food, one item.
Can't believe she's putting me on the spot like this. I've been talking about this a lot, and it sounds crazy, the most pedestrian fair food out there, but it's a peanut butter and jelly sandwich that is battered, deep fried, and covered with powdered sugar and what they call Razorback sauce. It's a raspberry, boysenberry coulis, and I had to explain to them what the word coulis meant. And it is remarkably fabulous. It's huge. It's a good deal considering it's $9 and funnel cakes are $10 to $15. I think it's a good bet.
Thanks, Kat. Very quickly.
Corn dog.
Fried Oreos.
Greens and cornbread, hot water cornbread. They sell that at the state fair. Okay, so final question here. How many restaurants do we have in the Little Rock area? The person who gets it closest to the number, you will go to the state fair. You'll have a gate admission plus parking for 4 people. All right, go. Gotta go quick. Fast, fast, fast. It does include food trucks. That's not fair. You're closer. Do you want to give it to somebody? Okay. So we actually have 795 brick and mortars and 320 food trucks. All right. In Little Rock. In Little Rock. Thank you very much. I hope you enjoyed this delicious discussion today.
Guys, if you keep your seats for just a second, let me say thank you, Pam, Kevin, Darren, and Kat. I have had the pleasure of working with a couple of you through the Greek Food Festival over the years. I'm happy to see that we still share our love of food, you in your written word and me in my expanding waistline. Thank you for continuing to promote the growth of Little Rock food, the Little Rock food scene. President Natalie Speaker's gift for the year is a keepsake from our newest addition to the downtown Little Rock art, the mural on the corner of 2nd Street and River Market Drive. Thank you for sharing your time with us. We look forward to seeing you again soon. Rotarians, next week we will welcome back our fearless leader, President Gadati, but also answer our annual appeal for your old drugs, no questions asked. With that, we are adjourned.